So now that we know that stress exists for everybody, young and old, and don't mistaken how young you could be. Even elementary students will come to a counselor's office and express that they've been stressed or worried. And so it's funny because they'll even come to the office and say, I have an anxiety disorder, almost diagnosing themselves. So the terminology is becoming common enough. So then we begin to put our heads together and try to ascertain what is it that kids are stressed out about? What could they possibly have to be stressed out about? Go to school, make friends, have fun, do a good job, be respectful. How can that be so stressful? My opinion is a lot of the kids are lacking the management skills. Stress is a normal part of life, but how you manage it will determine what that looks like in your life. And no two children necessarily manage it the same. And so it's important for the adults in their life to be able to equip them with effective, appropriate coping skills. But before we go there, I really want to talk about what is it that stresses kids. And so a group of people got together, did some research, and interviewed many youth. Okay, and so the thing with doing research is sometimes it's a little skewed, and you don't necessarily get the best snapshot of what's going on. So I'm going to give you some statistics about the top 5 things that they said the youth are stressed over. However, I'm going to take it kind of with a grain of salt. I believe those are probably the top 5 things. However, they could be in a different order, just depending on where you're asking, how you surveyed them. Did they not want to report something for fear of somebody finding out? So I'm going to go over these 5 in the order that they presented through the research. The first one was school. And I absolutely hands down agree that school is stressful for our young people. They're hearing, oh my gosh, if you don't do this, you're not going to get into a good college. If you don't do your homework, this, that, and other is going to happen. And so they're hearing this from a very young age. Typically, we start giving kids grades by 2nd grade. So by 2nd grade, kids figure out who the best speller is, who's the best math student, who always gets the 100. And so that begins to maybe even put some self-imposed stress on the kids. But they want to compete. Some of these more academic school districts or affluent school districts, oftentimes the pressure for them to do well. Parents in those districts will say things like, well, I was valedictorian, I don't know what the big deal was. As if they're saying that because they were valedictorian, that their child should be valedictorian. In a household, you could have 3 or 4 children and each one of them be at a different place academically. But 78% of the kids said that schoolwork was one of them. The second one, which I love to discuss, and I kind of love throwing it out there when I'm doing presentations, is that parents are at the top of that list. As I look back, even in my own parenting style, I was a stressor that affected my kids' schoolwork because they would get home and I'd want to, be the best parent, try to engage with my kids. I'm like, oh, let me tell you what happened today at work. Or, oh my gosh, guess who I saw? Guess whose mom called me? This, that, and other. In the middle of them trying to do their homework. Or, pretty typical, and I'm sure you guys have heard of this, is, hey, come take out the trash. Or, oh my gosh, clean your room. Or, oh my gosh, help me move this. And so I was a constant disruption. But parents become a stressor when they're implementing consequences, boundaries, expectations, anything during those years. What you want as a parent and an adult and what the kid wants absolutely could be 2 separate things. So it creates stress. Sometimes parents have their own issues where they're dealing with their own stress or depression or work-related things. And if they're not managing that well, then it the ripple effect flows from the top down. The third thing for the kids is the romantic relationships. The pressure to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. When you break up from a relationship. Most of the kids aren't prepared for that, so that's very stressful for them. I'm not sure what they're always talking about, but somebody that gets cheated on in relationships, and then that breeds that mistrust and worry and anxiety. Also, they talk about friends. I think friends is kind of high up on that list. At the time of middle school, elementary school, we kind of gone to school together all the time. It's the same group of kids. We're at least all in the same grade, if not the same classroom. And so when you get to middle school, you're kind of spread out. You might not have any classes with your friends. Typically, middle school, you eat lunch together. By high school, not necessarily. So you could have a good friend that you went through school with and not see them really all day, or interact with them at least all day long. And so managing those friendships, we've always heard of mean girls, bullying, those kinds of things become huge stressors. And at this age, they're not always sure who to talk to about that. And then finally, their siblings. Sometimes it could depend on how close they are in age. That could be a factor. Sometimes just that they're fighting. If you don't have a house that provides them enough space to spread out, are we sharing things? Are they the same size physically? So somebody is wearing my shirt. Oh my gosh, she has my jeans. I wanted to wear that today. So all of those things. So real quick, as a recap, schoolwork at the top of the list. Parents at the top of the list. Those romantic relationships or the pressure to have at the top. Friends, managing those friends, absolutely. And younger siblings. All things that stress out our children.